Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking some more r/entitled people as requested by yourselves, and I'm always happy to supply, by the way. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's dive straight into today's first story. It's posted on the r/Mark Narrations subreddit. If you've got your own entitled neighbor stories, if they're extra long, extra juicy, relationship stories, anything like that with updates, post them over on that subreddit. I check it out every day to see what's going on. And I love to see those stories. Obviously, I don't enjoy seeing the negative stuff in your lives, but I enjoy the human aspect of it all and your feelings and emotions on it. And our next story comes from Spurred One Last Time, who, get this title, Vindictive ex-wife illegally signed application to a local HOA in my name. Holy moly, we've got an ex-wife and we've got HOA in the same story. This could get spicy. I'll start this off by saying my ex is vindictive as hell. We've been fully divorced since about right before the pandemic started. We sold the house we shared and I didn't have to pay her alimony because she cheated and we're in an at-fault state. It was messy since D-Day. All of the stereotypes. First sobbing, then trickle truth saying, I love you. It was just one time. Okay, it was 2 years. And then gaslighting followed by, I'm going to take you for everything. Before packing her shit and walking out. I feel like I never really knew the woman my ex was in all the time we were together. We were married 5 years and together for 7. And in 2 of those 5 years married, she had affairs with 3 other men. The final one being a foreign businessman of some sort from what I could find out. Yes, I got tested for STDs and was thankfully negative. Yes, she got pregnant by the final affair partner. And no, I didn't sign the birth certificate because I found out about all the affairs before the baby was born, thanks to a call from the first affair partner. My ex tried to go full scorched earth on me, but since we live in and were married in an at-fault state, she lost. We didn't pay equally into our house and the equity was divided 70-30. So I got a pretty good cash payout when I sold our marital home to put as a down payment on a different house closer to my job. It's a bit of a downgrade, but suits a single guy in his 30s like me just fine. My ex did show up to my house once, but I refused to let her in. She bitched at me that I'd financially ruined her in the divorce. I said that if she was fully willing to do that to me first, and the bitch had the audacity to say it should have been my life fucked over and not hers. I laughed so hard and said it was karma. She yelled that she'd sue me for what was rightfully hers. I said if she was gonna sue me, then to go ahead and sue me. I'd end up the same way in court because she has nothing but a false sob story. She was the cheater, not me. I'm no angel, but I didn't do anything to her, and she was the one who ruined our marriage. She then said she'd tell everyone she could that I abused her. I said I'd sue her for defamation if she did, and I was recording our interaction and had those words saved to my phone. She went wide-eyed and her jaw dropped. The look people are calling surprised Pikachu face. Then I asked her why she was there, if not to just try and make trouble, because she had a new man in her life that knocked her up. She just huffed at me and said he isn't around much and she's stuck in a tiny apartment living off his child support till he comes back. It was immature of me, I know, but I did the bit of playing the world's smallest violin. She yelled at me to go fuck myself and I yelled back that I'd sooner do that than her anytime. She raged at me, then got into the car to leave. Haven't seen her since. There is an HOA in my neighborhood, but I was not legally obligated to join it because the last owner of my house was not a member. I made sure of that through a real estate lawyer as well. The HOA had no grounds to force me to join and were not happy about it. The HOA president would show up with forms every week for the first month demanding I sign them. Then she threatened to take me to court, sent to her from my lawyer to make her stop that. So she started harassing me by looking for any infraction she could possibly report to the city. An inspector came out several times and found nothing wrong. In fact, I offered one of them a burger while grilling, and they graciously accepted. Did I mention the HOA hates barbecues and parties that aren't approved in advance? Well, they do, and I like to grill when the weather is good, and my neighbours actually love me for it because I invite them over. I had the police called on me several times for noise complaints because I was playing music on a Saturday afternoon while having my friends over. The HOA president I caught trespassing once was trying to peer into my windows. I called the police, but she denied ever doing it, so I got cameras, and she hasn't trespassed since. But I still got repeated passive-aggressive letters saying my cameras were not an approved addition to my house. Some months ago, I started getting letters for fines in the mail. And when I contacted the HOA, their representative claimed that they had it on record that I had joined and needed to pay all fees effective immediately. I told them that was not possible. They emailed a scanned copy of the forms and they had a signature on them, but it was not mine. It was very similar in some ways, and I recognized right away as being my ex's handwriting. She knew what my signature looked like, but it was a loose imitation at best. I got in touch with a lawyer right away over the forged signature, but the HOA still demanded to go to court, and it took 7 months before that happened. Meanwhile, they were stacking unpaid fines against me weekly and were threatening to put a lien on my house. We went to court and the HOA president looked very smug, but my lawyer pointed out how the signature wasn't the same as mine and was very inconsistent in the various forms. I'd never allowed the HOA president in my house and I'd never requested the forms. The idiot HOA president actually slammed her palm on the table and said it was still binding. But when pressed where this fraudulent signature came from, she admitted my ex-wife called the HOA and they sent her the forms, then got them back in the mail signed. But then she actually claimed she thought I'd signed them. The judge looked at her and asked if she was serious. She confirmed she was. The judge then asked how a woman I was no longer married to, that had never even lived with me in my current residence, was supposed to have any bearing on whether or not I joined her HOA. She went quiet and I could see the "oh shit" look on her face as the hamster wheels were turning and she seemed to finally mentally put the pieces together. My lawyer then counterclaimed that what the HOA did was blatant fraud and legal actions must be taken. And they were. I countersued the HOA for the emotional distress of harassment I'd gotten since moving in, which I had lots of proof of. That won me about 10 grand after lawyer fees that I decided to put towards my mortgage. The HOA president was removed from her throne. I like to think she was kicking and screaming. She was also slapped with a hefty fine. I've seen her outside a few times and she always looked at me like I'm the devil. The HOA itself had to pay all my legal fees too. I wanted to go after my ex for forging my signature, but can't because not long after she forged my signature on those forms, she apparently left the country to be with a third affair partner. She's somewhere in Europe from what I can see of the final post on her Facebook before she disappeared. So I can't do anything against her unless she ever returns to the US. So that was a wash. I'm not getting letters from the HOA anymore though, and the new president has promised to keep things completely cordial from now on. I still don't feel like I got much of a win in this though. Other than the 10k payout, it all felt like a huge waste of time. And from the title alone, that was all the drama I was expecting in that story, that ex-wife. But the way she turned on OP, they was together 5 years, married 7. And OP says, they feel like they didn't know their wife at all through all those years because they cheated 3 times that they know of. And when it all did come out, she totally gaslit OP saying, "Gonna take you for everything." There was no really, "Sorry, I totally messed up. I'll do everything I can." They did say, "I love you. It was just one time." Okay, it was 2 years, but it's like OP was saying again, it was trickle truth and slowly releasing the truth bit by bit, followed by the gaslighting. And even after everything was said and done, ex-wife didn't move on. They sat and they plotted how they could get back at OP. Went to the effort of phoning this HOA, getting the form sent across and forging a signature like that. That is messed up. So OP having to deal with, their relationship being absolutely torn to shreds, being cheated on, already dealing with a shitty HOA, and then their partner putting them through 7 months or so of waiting for court to go through. And that sort of wait, to me anyway, I'm not sure about OP, but to me, to wait that amount of time to have something dealt with like that would be anxiety-inducing months for me. That would always be on my mind. There's stuff like that going on with my dad right now with the whole court thing. And it's been going on for a year. It's likely to go on for a year or more from now as well. And it's always on my mind, it's always on the back of my mind, thinking about what is going on there. I don't know why, but it does. So for OP having to deal with the previous drama and then this as well, OP is totally right. That's a vindictive person. And whilst I can understand OP's last statement there, they don't feel like they got much of a win out of it other than 10k off their mortgage, because they've been through a hell of a time. I'm very glad and, in a non-condescending way, proud that they did go through with this and dealt with people like that. The HOA, his ex-wife, and they're moving on with their life now. They sound like an absolute fantastic neighbor. I would love to have a neighbor like that next to me, barbecuing and offering me a burger over the fence, let me tell you. They sound like a great neighbor, so keep doing you. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. It comes from Cookie Dough Junkie, who says, my sister thinks $55 covers 2 months of babysitting, and it does come with an update. Too long, but you'll read anyway. This makes me hurt a little, because up to this point my sister was the only one I could mildly get along with within my family. But I guess she is my mother's daughter, so the entitlement shouldn't have been a surprise. My sister and brother-in-law are both essential, cop and doctor. So they've needed someone to watch their kids now that school is cancelled and a lot of daycare services aren't around. And even then, the youngest one had been kicked out of 2 of them, and finding a new one is difficult due to that. So I've been watching these kids 4 to 6 times a week, depending on their schedule, anywhere between 7 to 12 hours a day. I was told to wait until they got paid, then told to wait for the stimulus check to come in and they'd pay me for it. At that point, and I do have the text, it was going to be $85 a week, regardless of that 4 to 6 times a week. Well, they got the stimulus check in. My sister gives me $55 and tells me this was for the babysitting. I told her, what the fuck? This isn't what we agreed on. I was told that I should be grateful because she has been feeding me. No, she hasn't. I bought my own food and tended to have to buy the food that these kids were eating for lunch. I was told it was just like hanging out, having fun, playing video games with my nephews. No, it was not, and she knows her kids better to know they are fucking monsters. They are both destructive. It's a hassle since I have to chase one of them around all the time to prevent them from climbing shelves or from getting out the front door, because these kids were never taught to mind, and when I refused to bring my gaming laptop for the older one to play anymore, I told him specifically if he wanted to play on it, he'd only touch the wireless mouse and keyboard and play it at the desk, but not to touch the laptop. So what does he do after getting bored with one game? He begged me to let him play. Pick up the laptop and run with it and drop it. I screamed at him. Not my best moment, and he had the attitude of a teenager valley girl of whatever, accidents happen, that's why they are accidents. If it breaks you can just buy a new one. Of which I told him he would be the one to replace the $1,600 computer. But since that day, he's been a whining bag of shit about me not bringing it over for him to play with. I have to deal with these kids assaulting me all the time and not being able to do a thing about it. These kids are fucking monsters, and the only reason I agreed to do this was because she was my sister and she needed the help, but I was supposed to be compensated for my time away from my own work. I work commission-based jobs at home, but I can't work on it around them as there's no pause for me to do it, lest the younger one would probably run away and get hit by a truck. I know it'd probably be crappy of me to do it, but if I don't show up for the next few days until they fix paying me what they at the very least owed me. But on the other hand, I really just don't want to be around those kids. They need to be heavily medicated and are the poster children for corporal punishment being a necessity. The kids are 11 and 8. The laptop is fine. My response was due to his attitude of I can just replace it when I told him no, because I don't want it broken. And as I said, we do have an update to this story as well. Look, I think what you did to begin with to help your sister out to look after the kids was a nice thing, and she agreed to give you this money, so there was an expectation there. So it's quite simple to me, this one, as if she doesn't pay you, you don't go round. It's as simple as that. And there will be people around you that's going to say, but family. But we've learned many times on this channel, you don't bow down to that shit, because it only gets worse if you do. It only enables their behavior. And hell, $85 a week to look after 2 kids, potentially between 4 to 6 times a week. I know people who would pay double or triple that to fly you over here to get you looking after their kids today. But I was going to say absolutely not the arsehole, but it's the wrong subreddit. So we're going to cover some comments, then we're going to move on to the update. So Al says, what you do is take a screenshot of the agreement that states you get $85 a week. Tell your sister she better pay you or she will have to find another sitter. In my country, 1 hour of sitting cost about $10. In our currency, of course, at least. So should she refuse to pay you, that you come again, she might just as well pay a sitter for the next month or so, which will cost her about $350 a week. Also, take care of yourself and stay safe. Spudgun says, tell them you can't babysit anymore. They need to figure out something for themselves. You tried, they stiffed you. Laureen Plume says, helping your sister was a very nice thing to do, especially nowadays, but she agreed to pay you a certain amount of money. She didn't. Don't go there anymore. I know it's not that easy because she is family, but you have the right to change your mind. She also did, right? And Sanny Lou says, first of all, $85 for a week of babysitting 2 kids is ridiculous. I pay that per day at my daycare. There are cheaper daycares, but I'd be asking for $50 a day if I were you. I'm in Canada, so not sure what the price is where you are, but look into it. How can a doctor and a cop be so low on money? Stop babysitting for them, and once they see what others are asking, they will be much more grateful and accommodating to what you are asking for. So now let's move on to the update, which comes 1 week later. So I waited some time so I wouldn't have to do multiple updates after a few people asked for them. Not sure if this is typically a subreddit that allows updates, but here it goes. To clear the air here, I am a dude. I know how feminizing for a man to babysit. I had thought to correct this in the other post, but I also sort of amused how many people assumed I was a woman. I spoke first to her brother-in-law, who had no idea that she wasn't paying me. So he was the one to pay me back for the weeks I had already done. He wasn't very happy with my sister. I didn't watch them for this last week. I did talk to my sister first off about how disrespectful that was to make a deal and renege on that deal, especially considering how ill-behaved her kids are. My sister told me she didn't think it was a big deal because I was getting unemployment, and she assumed that because some people were getting unemployment and an additional $600+ a week due to COVID, that doesn't make any sense to pay extra people on unemployment and those not working. So I was making bank either way. She assumed wrong. I was not getting $600 extra a week. I wasn't on unemployment due to COVID, but it was part of what happened with my former employer before I went to work for myself, that they are paying my unemployment for their many labor law violations. My unemployment through them is almost up anyways. Either way, it was odd for her to assume I was making $900 a week off unemployment without asking me if I was. She and brother-in-law had to switch around their shifts to watch their kids this week since I wouldn't show up. Brother-in-law said he'd pay me directly if she wasn't going to, and that's when it became a 3-way conversation. I let them know that their kids' behavior is really unacceptable, even for behaviorally challenged kids, which if they were, they'd be forced to have a childcare provider licensed for dealing with it. That's not the case with their kids. They just let them get away with too much. Ironically, last week I saw a hot bench episode with a mother who had a child who apparently told the babysitter to put him in his room, put up the gate if she were to not be in the room with him for any reason so he couldn't get out. And this kid was 10. And it got me thinking of my nephews. So, I told them they need to install more security measures against the kids. A high-raised lock that the monkey can't reach so he can't be running out the door. Removing anything that can be used as a weapon. Possibly a gate to lock one up in a room if they're misbehaving when there's nothing in there for them to break. I will not hit a kid, but I don't mind shoving them into a room and locking it to see if they calm down. I'm not watching them this week either, but I told them I might reconsider it if something can be done to make watching them not like being a security guard at a prison. At least there you can beat up the inmates. My sister didn't like my suggesting that they need to change their parenting, but my brother-in-law actually agreed. They had their argument and said this is why they can't get babysitters or daycare for them anymore. They are out of control. Definitely knew that, and they keep coddling them through it. Definitely knew my sister was doing that. So there's a possibility I might watch them next week, if they sought some sort of new way to mitigate their behaviors that could actually work. But that's not a yes yet. They would need ways to start disciplining their kids either way, or they'd just be releasing awful teens onto the world. Now put yourself in OP's position. Step into his shoes. How would you feel in that situation? Would you ever reconsider babysitting again? It seems like brother-in-law is on OP's side, but I'm not sure about the sister still. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for spending your time with me today. Your love, support and time always means the absolute world. If you want to get involved further in the channel, there's many ways to do so. You can join us over on Twitter at Narrations. Join over there. I post pictures of Poppy, your friend art, all that sort of good stuff, and I love to see it, so please keep it coming. And you can even support the channel if you choose to do so. Never any pressure though. Never expected, but always appreciated. You can click that join button down below, or you can click the link in the description and join over on Patreon. Thank you so much for your love, support and time, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today